Sally trudged through the door, exhausted from a day of work and the relentless demands of her part-time job. The aroma of dinner lingered in the air, a mix of herbs and spices that hinted at a meal prepared with care. As she entered the kitchen, however, a familiar tension settled in the pit of her stomach. Her mother-in-law, Evelyn, stood by the stove, eyeing the simmering pot with a critical gaze. "Sally, dear, I thought I told you to use fresh basil, not that dried stuff. It makes all the difference in the world," she remarked, her tone dripping with disapproval. Sally sighed, suppressing the frustration bubbling within her. "I used what we had, Evelyn. It's been a long day, and I did my best." Evelyn raised an eyebrow, her disapproving gaze lingering on Sally's tired face. "Well, your best clearly isn't good enough. James deserves a proper meal when he comes home from work." Just then, James walked into the kitchen, oblivious to the tension hanging in the air. "Hey, what's for dinner?" he asked, flashing a smile at Sally. Sally forced a smile in return, trying to hide the exhaustion etched on her face. "Pasta with marinara sauce, just like you like it." Evelyn scoffed. "Marinara again? Can't you make something more sophisticated? James deserves better than this." Sally's patience wore thin, but she held her tongue. James, sensing the tension, intervened. "Mom, Sally's been working all day. Let's not make a big deal out of dinner tonight." Evelyn huffed but said nothing, retreating to the living room with an air of disdain. Sally and James exchanged a weary glance, a silent acknowledgement of the daily struggle they faced in their own home. Later that evening, as Sally tucked their daughter into bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that her efforts were never enough. The daily criticism, though subtle, gnawed at her confidence, creating a rift in her marriage that seemed to widen with each passing day. The following days brought no respite for Sally. Tensions in the household escalated as Evelyn's criticisms grew more pointed, each remark cutting deeper than the last. James, engrossed in his work, remained oblivious to the strain building within their home. One evening, as Sally prepared dinner in the kitchen, Evelyn entered with a disapproving frown. "Sally, darling, how many times do I have to tell you? You're overcooking the chicken. James won't enjoy a dry meal like this," she declared, peering over Sally's shoulder. "I appreciate your input, Evelyn, but I've got it under control," Sally replied, her patience wearing thin. James, sensing the tension, walked in, looking from his mother to his wife. "What's going on here?" "Evelyn's just offering her helpful advice on dinner," Sally replied with forced cheerfulness. Evelyn scoffed. "Helpful advice? I'm just trying to make sure my son gets a decent meal. Something he won't get from your cooking, apparently." James sighed, a hint of frustration in his voice. "Mom, please let Sally handle the cooking. She's doing her best." Evelyn crossed her arms, shooting Sally a condescending look. "If you say so, James, but don't say I didn't warn you when your dinner isn't edible." As the days passed, family dinners became a battleground of passive-aggressive remarks and disapproving glares. James, caught in the middle, struggled to mediate between his wife and his mother. One evening, after a particularly tense dinner, Sally confronted James in the quiet of their living room. "James, we need to talk about your mom. Her constant criticisms are driving a wedge between us." James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Sally, she means well. You know how she is." "But James, it's affecting us. I can't keep pretending everything is okay," Sally pleaded. "I'll talk to her, okay? Just give me some time," James assured, though doubt lingered in his eyes. As the night settled in, the weight of unresolved tensions cast a shadow over their marriage, leaving Sally to wonder if James would truly address the growing strain or if their relationship was already reaching a breaking point. Sally's routine continued, the daily grind at work, the relentless scrutiny at home. One evening, as she sifted through the mail, a letter caught her eye. It was a bank statement for their daughter's education fund. Frowning, she studied the document, her eyes widening with each line she read. "James," she called out, her voice tinged with disbelief. James entered the room, distracted by his phone. "What's up? Have you seen this?" Sally thrust the bank statement into his hands, pointing at the significant withdrawal from their daughter's education fund. James scanned the paper, a nonchalant expression on his face. "All that? Yeah, I needed some extra cash. Don't worry about it." Sally's eyes narrowed. "Extra cash? James, this is our daughter's future you're talking about. You can't just take money out without discussing it with me." He shrugged, dismissing her concern. "Relax, Sally. We'll put it back when we need to. Right now, it's not a big deal." Sally's frustration simmered beneath the surface. "Not a big deal. James, we had an agreement about the education fund. We agreed that any withdrawal without discussion would lead to serious consequences." James rolled his eyes. "Come on, Sally. It's not like we're going to get a divorce over this." Her eyes flashed with determination. "Maybe we should. We'd had an agreement for a reason, James. This is our daughter's future we're talking about." The room fell silent, the weight of Sally's words hanging in the air. James, seemingly unfazed, glanced at his watch. "I've got work to do. We can talk about it later." As he walked away, Sally stared at the empty doorway, a mix of anger and disbelief coursing through her veins. The realization hit her like a tidal wave. The foundation of trust in their marriage had crumbled, and a decision had to be made. The path to divorce seemed inevitable, and Sally grappled with the magnitude of the choices ahead. The tension in the house had reached a boiling point. Sally, unable to shake off the shock of discovering the significant withdrawal from their daughter's education fund, confronted James in the dimly lit living room. "James, we need to talk about this," Sally demanded, her voice firm, yet tinged with hurt. He looked up from his laptop, annoyance evident in his expression. "Can it wait, Sally? I've got a deadline to meet." "No, it can't wait. We're talking about our daughter's future here," she shot back, a fiery determination in her eyes. James sighed, setting aside his work with obvious irritation. "Fine. What's the big deal?" "It's just money." "Just money?" Sally's voice rose with disbelief. "James, this is the education fund we've been saving for our daughter. We had an agreement, and you've completely disregarded it." He scoffed, waving off her concern. "We can save up again. It's not like she needs it right now." "Relax, Sally." Her frustration bubbled over. "It's not about whether she needs it now or not. It's about trust, about sticking to our agreements. How can you be so cavalier about something so important?" James leaned back, a nonchalant smirk playing on his lips. "Look, I helped out my mom. We needed the money, and it's not like it's gone forever. We can put it back when we want to." Sally's eyes blazed with anger. "Helped out your mom? James, that money was for our daughter's education, not for impromptu generosity. You can't just decide on your own to use it." He leaned forward, his tone dismissive. "Your money is just bird seed, Sally. I contribute too, you know. It's not like you're the only one earning in this family." The room crackled with tension as the argument escalated. Sally, no longer able to contain her frustration, stood her ground. "This isn't just about the money, James. It's about respect, trust, and our future together. If you can't understand that, then maybe we need to rethink this entire relationship." His eyes narrowed, and a sarcastic smirk played on his lips. "Oh, is that a threat? Go ahead if you think you can make it on a part-time salary." Frustration and hurt etched across her face. Sally's voice trembled with resolve. "That's it, James. We're getting a divorce. I can't stay in a marriage where trust means so little to you." He sneered, seemingly unfazed. "Fine by me. I'm always ready for a divorce." With those words, James walked away, leaving Sally standing alone in the dimly lit room, grappling with the weight of the decision she had just made. The unraveling of their marriage seemed inevitable, and the once bright future now lay obscured by the storm clouds of betrayal and broken promises. The days that followed the heated argument were shrouded in an uneasy silence. Sally, wrestling with the emotional fallout, found herself at a crossroads. The trust that had once anchored their marriage now lay shattered, and the decision to divorce weighed heavily on her mind. One evening, as James absent-mindedly scrolled through his phone, Sally sat him down for a conversation that would alter the course of their lives. "James, we need to talk about us," Sally began, her voice tinged with a mix of sadness and determination. He glanced up, his expression indifferent. "What's there to talk about? We had an argument. It happens." Sally took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "It's more than just an argument, James. It's about the fundamental issues in our marriage, the lack of trust and respect." He sighed, a hint of annoyance in his voice. "Sally, can we not do this right now? I have a lot on my plate at work. This is important, James. Our marriage is important," she insisted, her eyes pleading for understanding. "What do you want, Sally?" he asked, his tone bordering on impatience. She looked him in the eyes, her voice steady. "I want a divorce." The words hung in the air, a heavy silence enveloping the room. James, caught off guard, furrowed his brow. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "Our marriage has become toxic, and we can't continue like this. I deserve more, and our daughter deserves better." He scoffed, attempting to mask his surprise. "You think you can make it on a part-time salary? Good luck with that, Sally. I'll manage. I've decided to work full-time, and I have the support of my parents," she retorted, her determination shining through. He leaned back, a dismissive smirk playing on his lips. "Go ahead, like you can make it without me." With a sigh, Sally stood up, her decision final. "James, it's time for both of us to find a happier, healthier path. I can't stay in a marriage where trust is broken and promises are ignored." As she walked away, leaving James sitting alone in the dimly lit room, the weight of her decision sank in. The journey toward a divorce was set in motion, and Sally, though faced with uncertainty, felt a glimmer of relief knowing that she was taking the first step toward reclaiming her life and ensuring a better future for herself and their daughter. The decision to divorce was both liberating and daunting for Sally. With newfound determination, she began to plan for a future free from the confines of a strained marriage. The first step involved securing her financial independence and providing a stable environment for her daughter. One evening, Sally sat down with her parents to discuss the changes ahead. Her mother, understanding the gravity of the situation, spoke with a reassuring tone. "Sally, dear, we're here for you. We'll support you every step of the way." Her father nodded in agreement. "Your well-being and our granddaughter's future are our top priorities. We'll help you through this transition." Grateful for their support, Sally outlined her plan. I've decided to work full-time again. It'll be challenging, but I want to provide the best for our daughter. The kindergarten she attends is close to my workplace, and I can pick her up during my break." Her mother smiled. "That sounds like a solid plan. And she can stay at your workplace's daycare until your shift ends. It's convenient and will ensure she's well taken care of." Sally nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Exactly. I've already spoken to my employer, and they're supportive of the arrangement. It's time to focus on building a stable and loving environment for our daughter." As the days passed, Sally's commitment to her plan solidified. She updated her resume, began job hunting for full-time positions, and explored daycare options near her workplace. The anticipation of a fresh start buoyed her spirits, even as the challenges of single motherhood loomed. One evening, as she shared her plans with her daughter, the little girl looked up with wide eyes and asked, "Mommy, are we going to be okay?" Sally hugged her tightly. "Yes, sweetheart. Mommy is going to work hard, and we'll create a happy life together. You'll always be okay, and we'll face the future as a team." In the midst of uncertainties, Sally found solace in the unwavering support of her parents and the promise of a brighter future. As she embarked on this journey of independence, she knew that the challenges ahead would be worth the freedom and stability she sought for herself and her daughter. As Sally prepared for the next chapter in her life, she knew she needed to address the lingering issues with her in-laws. The opportunity presented itself when James received an invitation for dinner at his parents' house. Sally saw this as a chance to confront the source of much of her pain. With a determined resolve, Sally accompanied James to his parents' home. The air in the house was tense as they entered, the weight of unspoken grievances hanging thick in the atmosphere. Evelyn greeted them with a forced smile, oblivious to the storm that was about to unfold. As dinner progressed, Sally couldn't hold back any longer. "Evelyn, we need to talk," she declared, her tone firm. Evelyn looked up from her plate, feigning innocence. "Talk about what, dear?" Sally's gaze remained unwavering. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. The constant interference in our lives, the criticisms, and most importantly, the misuse of our daughter's education fund." James looked uncomfortable, shifting in his seat. "Mom, let's not do this now." But Sally pressed on. "No, James, it's time we address these issues. Your mother's actions have consequences, not just for us, but for our daughter's future." Evelyn raised an eyebrow, a smug expression playing on her face. "And what consequences might those be?" Sally produced a document from her bag, a signed agreement that she and James had made regarding the education fund. "This, Evelyn, we agreed that any misuse of the education fund would lead to immediate consequences, including the possibility of divorce." The room fell silent as James and Evelyn stared at the document. The weight of Sally's words hung in the air, and for the first time, Evelyn seemed to grasp the severity of the situation. James broke the silence, his voice strained. "Sally, are you serious about this?" Sally nodded, her eyes fixed on Evelyn. "I am, James. This isn't just about the money. It's about respect and trust. It's about the toxic environment that your mother has cultivated in our lives." Evelyn, caught off guard, stammered, "Well, I never thought you'd take it this far. It was just a temporary solution." Sally remained resolute. "Temporary or not, it doesn't excuse the breach of trust. Our daughter's future is not a pawn to be used for renovations or impulsive purchases." The confrontation left an indelible mark on the evening, and as Sally and James left the house, the once unspoken issues were now laid bare. The decision to divorce seemed even more justified, and Sally, though weary, felt a sense of closure as she confronted the root of her marital struggles. The road ahead might be challenging, but she was ready to face it with newfound strength. In the aftermath of the confrontation at the in-laws' house, the atmosphere in James's family unraveled further. The tension was palpable as the once unspoken secrets emerged into the harsh light of truth. A few days later, Sally received a call from her father-in-law, requesting a meeting to discuss the recent events. As they gathered in a quiet cafe, Sally braced herself for what might unfold. Her father-in-law, looking weary, spoke first. "Sally, I've been listening to both sides, and I want to apologize. I had no idea the situation had escalated to this point." Sally nodded, appreciating his sincerity. "Thank you for acknowledging that, Mr. Johnson. But there's more to this, isn't there? More than just the misuse of the education fund." He hesitated before continuing. "Yes, there is. It's about time you knew the whole truth. James and Evelyn, they've been struggling financially. They used the education fund for renovations, thinking they could repay it before anyone found out." Sally's eyes widened in surprise and frustration. "So this goes beyond just my mother-in-law's impulsive spending. They've been keeping financial secrets from me." Her father-in-law nodded gravely. "It seems so. I wasn't aware of the extent of it until recently. I'm sorry you had to find out this way." As the conversation unfolded, Sally learned that the financial strain extended beyond the education fund. James and Evelyn had been struggling to make ends meet, and their spending habits had spiraled out of control. The truth painted a bleak picture of her husband's family, and Sally couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and sadness. A few days later, Sally confronted James about the revelations. "Why didn't you tell me about the financial struggles? We're supposed to be partners in this marriage." James looked down, avoiding her gaze. "I didn't want to burden you. I thought we could handle it on our own." Sally's frustration boiled over. "Handling it on our own doesn't mean hiding the truth from me. We're a team, James. Keeping me in the dark only made things worse." He sighed, a hint of remorse in his voice. "I messed up, Sally. I didn't know how to tell you." The unraveling of family secrets had laid bare the depth of the issues within James's family. As Sally processed the truth, the decision to divorce seemed even more justified. The trust, already fragile, had been shattered completely. The road ahead was uncertain, but Sally was determined to build a new life for herself and her daughter, free from the burdens of a fractured marriage and a family haunted by financial secrets. With the truth about her husband's family now laid bare, Sally felt a renewed sense of determination to move forward with the divorce proceedings. The once intact family structure had crumbled, and as she navigated the complexities of legal proceedings, Sally found herself facing the reality of the decisions that lay ahead. One afternoon, as they sat across from each other in a lawyer's office, the air was thick with tension. Sally's lawyer, a stern but empathetic figure, addressed the couple. "We're here to discuss the terms of the divorce, including child custody, child support, and the division of assets." Sally, maintaining her composure, spoke first. "I want full custody of our daughter. I believe it's in her best interest, considering the recent events and the financial instability within James's family." James, shifting uncomfortably in his seat, countered, "Sally, we can work out joint custody. I want to be a part of our daughter's life." Sally's resolve remained unshaken. "James, given what we've been through, I think it's best if I have primary custody. We can work out visitation rights, but I need to ensure our daughter's stability." The lawyer interjected, "Let's also discuss child support. Sally, do you have a specific amount in mind?" Sally, mindful of their daughter's needs, responded, "I've calculated the monthly expenses, including education and daycare costs. I believe a fair amount for child support would be—" James interrupted, his frustration evident. "This is ridiculous, Sally. I can't afford that much. I have bills to pay and a life to maintain." Sally, stern but composed, asserted, "James, our daughter's well-being comes first. We need to ensure she has the support she deserves." As the divorce proceedings continued, the couple faced the daunting task of dividing their assets. The once shared life now became a puzzle of disentanglement, each decision carrying the weight of their fractured history. In a moment of reflection, Sally turned to James, her voice softer. "This isn't easy for any of us, but it's necessary. We need to focus on creating stable and separate lives for our daughter and ourselves." James, looking worn and defeated, nodded in reluctant agreement. The realization that their marriage had come to this point seemed to settle heavily on both of them. As the meeting concluded, the divorce proceedings set in motion a series of changes. The once united family was now a collection of separate entities, and Sally, though facing uncertainties, felt a glimmer of hope for the future. The road ahead would be challenging, but the decision to pursue a new life held the promise of healing and a chance to rebuild amid the ruins of a broken marriage. With the divorce proceedings finalized, Sally found herself at the threshold of a new chapter. The process had been emotionally taxing, but as she moved forward, the weight of the past began to lift. Chapter 10 marked the beginning of a journey toward healing and self-discovery. As she settled into her new routine as a full-time worker, Sally focused on creating a stable environment for her daughter. The challenges of single parenthood were met with determination, and the bond between mother and child strengthened with each passing day. One evening, as Sally and her daughter sat together in their cozy living room, a sense of peace filled the air. The little girl looked up with innocent eyes and asked, "Mommy, are we going to be happy now?" Sally smiled, the warmth of hope filling her heart. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going to build a happy life together, just you and me. We'll create new memories and leave the past behind." In the midst of the changes, Sally received an unexpected call from her ex-husband. "Sally, I've been thinking about everything, and I know I messed up. I want to be a part of our daughter's life. Can we work something out?" She took a deep breath, contemplating his words. "James, it's important for our daughter to have a relationship with her father. We can discuss visitation, but I need to ensure it's in her best interest." He sighed, a hint of regret in his voice. "I understand. I just want to be there for her." Their conversation marked a tentative step toward a new dynamic, one focused on co-parenting and putting their daughter's needs first. As Sally reconnected with old friends and found support in unexpected places, she realized the strength that had always resided within her. The scars of the past began to fade, replaced by a sense of resilience and newfound independence. One day, while sipping coffee with a friend, Sally reflected on the journey. "I never imagined my life would take this turn, but I've learned so much about myself and what I'm capable of." Her friend nodded, offering a supportive smile. Sometimes, the most challenging paths lead to the most rewarding destinations. You've got a whole new chapter ahead of you, Sally. With each passing day, the wounds healed, and Sally embraced the opportunities that lay ahead. The challenges of the past were transformed into stepping stones for a brighter future. As she navigated the complexities of single parenthood and rebuilding her life, Sally knew that the final chapter of her story had yet to be written, and she was ready to fill its pages with resilience, love, and the promise of a new beginning.